Welcome to Journaling with Nature, the podcast for those who want to turn curiosity into wonder, a pencil sketch into a rabbit hole of discovery, a moment of stillness into a life full of joy. I'm your host, Bethan Burton. Let's open the pages of our nature journals and explore this world together. Hello, this is episode 180. So another prompt episode today. As I look outside the window, I see grey skies and lots of rain. This is the tail end of Cyclone Alfred. Here in Brisbane, we got off really lightly, but just a little way down the coast, they were much harder hit. We had some strong winds overnight and rain today, but down there they have had lots of homes without power and huge ocean swells and that sort of thing. All this got me thinking about nature journaling during big weather events. These times, although it can bring up a lot of anxiety and uncertainty, these events can also be really interesting to nature journal about. Today I'm going to chat about different ways that you might go about nature journaling during big weather, what you could include and how to go about it. On this topic, the nature journaler who springs immediately to my mind is Miriam Morrill from Pyrosketchology. Miriam focuses on fire events, and she has a huge range of ways to nature journal about fire, including data and important information, but also about the human stories and the human impact of these events. So I'm going to chat about cyclones because of what's happened this week here in my region, but you could apply this to whatever extreme weather event you're experiencing. Before the weather event, you could be noting down data and information that you can find from weather forecasters, including sketches of predicted conditions, the way the storm is moving, although in the case of Cyclone Alfred, the storm moved so often it would have been a challenge to keep track of all these changes. You could also note down all the things that you're doing to be personally prepared for the event. Here we did a lot of work bringing in things from outdoors that might have been blown around, securing things with ropes and tarps and all that. Before an event like this, you might notice, and we noticed this recently and it was quite eerie, that everything goes quiet. For the days beforehand, there were no bird sounds and no insects or frog noises. It was totally silent in a very bizarre kind of way. This is an interesting thing to note in your nature journal. Maybe even include the time and the day that the silence started and what it felt like to experience this kind of silence. You might like to document the movement of cloud patterns. You might see over the day clouds building and darkening, and you could sketch a little skyscape each hour to notice these changes. You might notice animal behavior changing, like ants all moving inside the house. I've noticed this before. Ants seem to be a weather early warning system. During the big weather event, if you're safe and if you're in the mood, you might not be, but you could nature journal the sensory experience of the storm, for example. You could write or draw about the sounds you're experiencing or the smell of the earth or smoke if it's a fire event. You could also measure data like the temperature or wind speed if you have a personal weather station at your home. If it's a fire event, you might consider measuring the color of the sky using a cyanometer. This is a cool little gadget that you can make easily that measures the blueness of the sky because blueness is affected by the particulates that are in the air. I've got a little tutorial on how to make a cyanometer on my Instagram page, and I'll leave a link to that in the show notes so you can check it out if you feel like making one. You might like to paint the stormy sky from the window or the trees bending in the wind if you can see that from safely inside. You might like to create some color swatches that represent the colors that you see during the event. For me right now, the colors are grey and muted, a kind of misty haze is covering all the trees, so even the greens look less vibrant and quite grey today. After the event, you might like to document the recovery, how things were damaged and how they're growing again. And I'm reminded of Robin Lee Carlson, who has written a book about nature journaling after a fire event and the recovery of that ecosystem. You might like to put some final statistics in your journal, like the maximum wind speed or the rainfall data from an online weather source or from your own rain gauge. You might also like to document your own feelings as things settle back to normal and you integrate what's happened. For us here in Brisbane, the emotional build-up to the cyclone was a lot. Up in North Queensland, they get very severe storms and cyclones regularly, and so they're more prepared and less nervous. But here in Brisbane, the homes aren't designed to withstand large cyclones like this, and so we didn't know what was going to happen. Now, as we get the tail end of it and lots of rain, there's a sense of relief and settling back into normal levels, switching off from high alert. And this sort of thing can be expressed in your nature journal too. So there are just a few ideas for nature journaling during big weather events. I'd love to hear about events that you've experienced and maybe documented in your nature journal. What kinds of things did you document? What nature journaling tools did you use? How did you capture information and feelings? Let me know by leaving a comment below this episode on the Journaling with Nature website. Stay safe. Thank you so much for listening. See you next week.